So I, being a student, deliver pizzas to pay for school. Saturday night we get a call around 1 AM to a motel I had not delivered to in a while. That's kind of out of the way. There are not many other buildings around it, and it is on the edge of our map of the area we deliver to. I drove the 20 minutes and pulled into the parking lot and noticed there were not very many cars. Maybe 2 or 3 for a motel with almost 200 rooms. It was kind of strange, but it was a Saturday, so I figured most people were out, or they were not doing much business this weekend. I drove around the building for a while, looking for the right room number, or at least something close to it, and I noticed a van behind me. It was one of those big work vans with the sliding doors, except pretty beat up, and it had this creepy deer skull chained to the front, like a hood ornament. I figured they were doing the same thing as me, looking for the right room. I was getting a little confused, because I had forgotten that odd numbered rooms are on one end of the motel, and even numbers on the other. So I had been driving around for a while. I started noticing that none of the rooms' lights were on, and the lights were off in the office as well. But this van was still behind me. That's when I started getting a bit creeped out, but chalked it up to paranoia. Being a delivery driver can be like that sometimes, but being a girl driver makes you even more paranoid. This is usually the point where I would have walked in the office and asked the attendant to call the room and have them come to the office to get it for safety reasons. I took the turn to the office, and thank God the van stopped following. I parked and get out when I see a sign on the office door that says, "Out of business, MGMT." Fuck. I should have turned around and went back to the store right then, but I had come all the way out and just wanted to get it over with. I found the room and knocked on the door, and this older man opens it. He looked like a cowboy, tucked in plaid shirt, boots, and a bolo tie, except his eyes were horribly bloodshot, and his hands were shaking pretty badly as I handed him the pizza. He thanked me, and even gave me a pretty good tip, and I wished him a good night and headed back to the car. This is when I noticed the van had parked right behind my car, blocking it in. It started to pull into a parking spot and I was relieved, but it had just turned around, blocking my car in with the sliding door of the van facing me this time. I stopped, scared to death, and for the first time I noticed through the windows that there were more than 5 men in this van. I ran around to the side of the building, trying to go around them in order to get to my car. I figured if I could just get inside and lock the doors, everything would be alright. I heard the van door slide open and footsteps. I ran faster and cut through an alley, and I heard running behind me. I got into my car, locked the doors, and pulled out the taser I keep in my glove box. A man with a long beard and dirty ripped clothing runs up and starts banging on my door. He yelled, "Hey, we want to play with you. Stop being such a bitch and get in the car." I throw the car in reverse. I hit the van and push it just enough to give me the room to cut the wheel and get away. I looked back and saw them all getting out of the van and piling into the room of the guy I had delivered to. I felt stupid for not realizing sooner that he, I'm assuming, set the whole thing up. I made sure to blacklist that motel when I got back, and I'm taking a week off. I lived in a city in central Ohio that has a big college that I live near. I attended a different college than the one I mentioned and made the 20-minute drive from the city to that college. I also worked nights as a pizza delivery man in the city and the surrounding suburbs. One night I had an order in the town where my college is located, which is a smaller suburban city northwest of my home city. Now this call occurred during what my coworkers and I referred to as the dead hour, which is just before the shop closed at 1 in the morning. I begrudgingly took the pizza, got in the car, and plugged the address into the GPS. I noticed that the house was located off on a back road in what looked like a sparsely populated area. Not thinking much of it, I drove up Route 315 to I-270 East and exited. After passing through downtown, the cemetery, and the college, I drove through some subdevelopments and then onto the smaller road where the house was located. The GPS notified me that I had arrived at my destination, but to my surprise, the house was boarded up. I noticed that there was a small shed in the back of the house that had a small window. There was a flickering light in the window. At this point, almost every red flag had gone off in my head, but I knew my hard-ass boss would be pissed if I wimped out on this delivery. So I proceeded towards the shed. As I got closer to the shed, I heard a rustling in the bushes next to the driveway. Then I heard a man whisper, "Here they come, Billy. 45, 45. At that point, a man jumped out of the bushes and two other men jumped out of the shed. They were carrying knives and were wearing these long robes and white masks. I made it back to the car just in time, but one of the assailants managed to slit my arm. As I escaped, I could see the assailants standing in the middle of the road looking pissed. I probably drove 90 miles per hour on the way back. When I got to the shop, everyone looked shocked. After explaining everything to them, we contacted the police and they dispatched a few officers to the house. When they got there, the assailants were gone. They found some drug paraphernalia in the shed, and some ropes, and weird torture equipment. Always remember, carry pepper spray, everyone. I would like to share my story. This happened about 6 months ago. I had just gotten to work. It was still light outside and we were pretty busy. I snagged the first 2 runs up and took off on my double. They were both going to the hood. I made my first delivery with no problem and headed to my next. As I pulled around the corner, arriving to my second delivery, I see an African American dude standing outside of the address and another riding a bike in the street, slowly in circles like they were talking. Definitely a red flag, but like I said, it was early evening and still light outside, so I did not think anything more of it. I pull up on the wrong side of the street, in between the other two, with my driver's side door facing my delivery address. I roll down the window and asked the guy standing there if he ordered. He said yes. I hop out and go to open my back door where I keep the food. When I turn around, he goes and reaches behind his waistband and pulls out what looks like a Glock and said, "Give it up," as he points the gun in my face. I did not freak out or anything. I was surprisingly calm, especially since I had about $300 in my wallet. I shoved the food bag at him and gave it to him. I reach in my back pocket and retrieve my $20 in change the store gives you to get your night going, and handed him that as well. I wanted to tackle him so badly, but I felt like this guy had never held a gun before. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, and he was probably a few inches shorter and over 50 pounds lighter. It was wobbling in his hands, making me uneasy, like he was going to accidentally shoot me. At this point, I opened my hands and threw my arms out, signifying that, "Hey, you've got it all." He said, "Get in your car and go," while still pointing the gun at me. In one fluid motion, I dive in the car, throw it in gear, and floor it. I look over my shoulder when I get halfway down the block and he's running behind the building. I loop around the block as I'm calling 911 to see if I can get a visual. As I'm doing so, I notice the other black dude on the bike, so I pull up next to him. I yell out the window as dispatch is picking up. "Where's your homeboy?" He shrugs and continues to ride his bike down the street. I decide to stay with this guy. I explain to dispatch what has happened as I'm tailing this guy on a bicycle. He notices I'm not leaving him, so he stands up on his pedals and starts to go. Pulling down alleys and side streets, I stick with this guy on the bike, relaying my position the whole time. Finally, after a slow 5-minute pursuit, An unmarked police cruiser tries to pull me over. I stop and motion him on and point the perpetrator out to him. I was extremely lucky. Out of all the outcomes to result from this situation, this would have been one of the best. The one they caught on the bike gave up the name of the one with the gun, and they were able to capture him a couple days later. Both were just 15-year-old kids. Be safe out there, fellow drivers. Trust your gut. If something is sketchy, don't feel like you have to make the delivery. Phone your manager and say this delivery does not feel safe, and I guarantee you they will be on your side. Hey guys, I also found a good story from the subreddit No Sleep, so I hope you enjoyed this special bonus story. My way of saying thank you for your continued support. I deliver for a restaurant in town. Angelo's Pizza is a name, and some of the best pizza in town they have. The nights are not always busy, and I have a few minutes to kill here and there between deliveries, so I bring my laptop to work. Music, writing, and the occasional chess game usually fills the gaps rather well. It is a Saturday night, and surprisingly, it is not too busy. Around 11 PM, a delivery is ready. My boss hands me the food, and I walk out the back door to my car. My short 7-minute drive is fueled by the delicious aroma of fried mushrooms, Canadian bacon pizza, and monotonous screams of the Black Dahlia murder, which gives me a short adrenaline rush and hypes me up for the last stop of the night. I arrive at the address. It's the Heritage Inn, the only hotel in our town of only 9,000. The place is located on the edge of town and is a casual style 2-floor hotel with a not so vibrant, dull appeal. The building is made up of regular drab bricks, spaced with normal, boring windows every few feet, and the roof is shingled with a dark brown. At night it looks even duller, and tonight the parking lot is next to empty, but is filled with a few half-dim lights, giving it an unnerving feeling. The feeling that makes me want to strategically place my car keys between my fingers just in case. I pull up to the entrance, which has the most appealing feature to the outside of the building, a 9-foot overhang. I enter the hotel through the single door, then into the concierge's room. I go up to the girl to let her know I'm heading up too. I struggle to read the smudged writing. Room 101, I tell her. To the right of the desk is a door leading to the most eye-catching feature of the entire hotel, the pool. It looks magnificent at night when it's vacant and calm, with the dim light reflecting off the water onto the beige walls. It's almost a surreal and eerie environment, and yet it seems so inviting. I go down the hallway past the out-of-date vending machines and past the dark, noisy laundry room. The hall is long and not very brightly lit, like everything else it seemed. Fortunately, the doors to the stairs is soon after the laundry room, directly to the right. As I'm walking up the stairway, I can't help but think about the story I heard of this very same hotel. Whether it was factual or just a story, it still gave me a bone-chilling feeling. A murder took place here. One of the maids went on her daily walkthrough, to which room I do not know, and found the sheets of both beds soaked in blood. The police were informed, but no one was found in the room, nor were any bodies discovered in the hotel. There was more to the story, but I could not remember anything, probably due to being semi-terrified of the frightening atmosphere the hotel had to offer this night. Either way, all that kept passing through my mind were images of a corpse rotting away under some bed or underneath the floor. I near the top of the stairs and I see the room number 101 through the glass window. A feeling of relief passes over me knowing I won't have to go down the next darkened hallway. I open the door into the hallway and stand in front of the room. I look around me at both ends of the hall to reassure myself that I'm alone. I knock on the door and I wait a few seconds as I carefully balance the pizza and bag with one arm and the order ticket in the other hand. I hear a mumbled voice approach the door. As the door slowly creaks open, a man appears. An instant flashback to Jurassic Park races in my head, as the man bore a striking similarity to John Hammond. Both age and appearance being around the age of 60, with white hair, a beard, and a rounded face with glasses. The man is on the phone and opens the door all the way. He makes a waving gesture, informing me to come inside. As I get a good view of the entire room, and just as I'm about to take a step into the room, I notice something that is in no way in the realm of a normal hotel room, and I abruptly halt my stride. 3 people in total I see. The first is the John Hammond doppelganger at the door, who is now seemingly pretending to talk on the phone as he hides his head behind the door. The second is a woman who could possibly be a girlfriend or wife of the old man. She seems like she could be in her 50s. She's sitting on a chair directly across the room from the door, looking up watching TV in the corner of the room. The third is a girl who I am 100% sure is within 13 to 15 years of age, lying on her stomach on top of the bed. This is the part that unsettled me. Aside from panties, she is not wearing any clothes, and as a total stranger at a wide open door, she makes no effort to conceal herself or even acknowledge my presence. She didn't seem to realize or care that she was half naked, almost like she was drugged. I then noticed the woman on the chair as she is periodically looking over towards me, totally aware of the situation. Then I noticed the man at the door who, at least 2 minutes after I arrived, is still looking through his wallet behind the door. Or so I assumed that's what he was doing. I got the feeling like he was stalling. He hangs up the phone and apologizes to me for the wait with a raspy, creepy voice. I tell him the price and we exchange the food for the money. Between the exchange, I noticed the girl on the bed turn to face me for a second. It's at this brief moment I was able to stare into her eyes. They seemed vacant and void of all emotions, like they had been stolen from her, like she was lost. She turned back to the TV without a single change in her face. The man notices as I look at the girl, then turns and looks at her, then back to me. He stares at me for a few seconds and asks me again,
"Are you sure you don't want to come in?"
He said it with such a large but noticeably fake smile. It scared me and plunged me deep into a feeling of dread as my heart dropped. It was one of those moments where you know, without a doubt, that something is not right. Right would be an understatement actually. This moment felt like an eternity of darkness overcame me, like some evil entity was piercing my soul. We made our exchange. Nothing more was needed. What did this guy want? I firmly declined his offer as I shook my head side to side. He stared at me with that smile for a few more long seconds. The woman was still on the chair looking at me, and the girl was not moving on the bed. He said, still smiling,
"Alright then, you have a good night."
Then he closed the door. I stood outside the door for a minute. I think I was in momentary shock. I put the money in my pouch, then headed back down the stairs. I informed the girl at the front desk of the situation, but I don't think she took it as seriously as I did. Maybe I did not explain it well enough for her. I exited the hotel and got into my car, then began driving back through town. No music this time. I needed a quiet moment. I decided for whatever reason to call my mom and explain the situation. I explained the delivery from hell to her, and she hastily told me to hang up and call the police. I did so, but got no answer. I called my mom back and said I could not get through. She tried calling and I waited. It's been 2 days since the delivery. I apparently had a message on my phone but did not receive it due to phone trouble from the police who were returning my call. They were interested in hearing my story and seemed pretty concerned. All the probable scenarios, both within reality and exaggerated, that could have happened that night have been swirling through my thoughts. Did I make a choice that could have possibly saved my own life? And could I have indirectly witnessed the beginnings of a sadistic murder? 4 years later now, and I always think about what could have happened to that girl. What if she was found dead 50 miles away, and I never knew about it? Could I have done more to help her? Did she even need help? Or was that whole night just one sick misunderstanding? I wonder what would have happened to me If I had gone in that room, I have visions of needles, knives, blood, and cameras running through my mind. What were those people doing?